welcome in. This is a brand new thing I'm going to try to do, and I'm really excited about it. And calling it Collector Spotlight. And I'm going to bring on a collector. I don't know whether I'm going to do it once a month, every 3 weeks, 6 weeks. I don't know. It'll just be every now and then, and just let people share their cards and the stories behind the cards. Not going to get as much into their collecting history as much, but I just want them to share their stories, share their cards, and let everybody see them. We don't collect just to show them to ourselves and have our wife nod and go, "Yeah, that looks pretty cool," and then go on about our business. We collect because we want to share our collection with other people, and that just makes it that much more rich to do what we do. So, uh, without further ado, I'm going to bring Luke from Bleecker Street Cars in with me. Hey, Luke, let me change that screen. There we go. Got it on the right one now. Um,
Cool.
so,
Anytime.
just real quick, let me tell my audience where I first came across you. My first venture into social media from a card standpoint was Instagram. And I did that as my personal account. It wasn't Southern Collector yet, it was just Tony Liebrick. And I would go on there and I would, look at family photos of my friends. And then somehow Jonathan, who else was it? It was Matthew,
Yeah.
1956
And
Topps
Nate,
guy. Jonathan is what is his Sunset?
postcards and sunsets. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. And then Nate in Cardboard Veritas. You guys got into my feed somehow, and that gave me the idea of doing a card only account. And that started me on this adventure that I've been doing with social media and sharing my cards. And anyways, I was able to reach out to you. You were at the National, and you're the only guy in my IG group that I actually met in person, and you showed me some of your cool cards. And so tonight, I want you to show the people who are watching my stuff. I want you to share those cards with them.
Great. Yeah, sounds good. I mean, you've been on a rocket ship since then. I mean, like you're 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. You said that's
Yeah,
amazing.
that's
Yeah,
that's insane.
well,
Yeah,
I'm
and by the
glad.
way, thank y'all. I mean, like I'm blown away. I can't believe this happened in since October. So yeah. So just you've got a really large presence on Instagram. I checked that out today. You've got over 4,600 followers on Instagram, and you do have a YouTube channel as well. So I want to plug that. Today, just a while ago, I saw your latest YouTube video, man, and it's awesome. I want you to go watch it. I'm not gonna tell you what it is, but it's the kind of stuff that I really dig. So what Luke is really good at, this is my opinion, and my opinion's right here. There's no way you can't debate it. Luke is really good about having soul behind his collection. I mean, literal soul. You don't just collect to say, hey, here's this card and it costs this and the pop count is that and I feel awesome to have it because it's one of the best cards in the hobby. That is not your style, and that I wouldn't have you on here if it was. But you're really good at having that soul behind your set. So real quick, just explain to the audience, like, what is having a presence on Instagram and YouTube, what does that do for you personally as a collector?
Yeah, yeah, great thoughts, and thank you. I do um, pride myself on making an emotional connection to some of these things because you spend a lot of time on it, you spend a lot of money on these things. I at least it just comes from a place that feels innate. Like you just want to stare at something that like gives you some kind of chill or some kind of feeling behind it, and
Yeah.
so yeah, I think I started on Instagram, right in the COVID time. I was watching other influencers on YouTube do it, and I just got on because I wanted to see, cool cards, and that's what I think. Um, you could follow and interact with people. If you had a card only Instagram, it felt a little bit, I don't know, more walled off, and you're able to just kind of let your nerd flag fly because you can, there's no overlap with your personal life so much. Although
Yeah.
that's kind of changed. My, friends and families now follow me, but and that kind of started just to see cool cards, post some stuff, and it led to friendships, it led to good deals. Like I, found great cards through Instagram. But connections to other people and seeing, how tastes can differ, I guess.
Yeah.
I I'm such a big proponent of getting out there and making the hobby more than something that you do in your basement or your man cave, because on the social media, whatever it is, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, you just get to learn from other people. And then one of the cool things too is when someone else that you like could get something that they like, you almost get a little bit of that,
Yeah.
dopamine hit, right?
Yeah.
Like you're
Yeah.
excited for them, and you're not have even, you're not out any money. So I always like, just trying to be a cheerleader for other people, and then
Mhm.
getting that back. And that's what Instagram was great for early on, and it's just the easiest way for me to continuously engage with the hobby. And in my last gig, I was a little bit more like restricted on what I could post online, so I didn't want to like put myself out there. I just wanted to sit behind the cards a little bit. And so I didn't really do YouTube as much because, it seems like most of the good content is people like you staring at the screen, just talking through cool pickups and stories and history of cards. And I just didn't feel as comfortable doing that. But, I think it's some of my favorite content to watch. So now I'm thinking, maybe I should twist it up and or change it up, because I'm in a new job now. There's less restrictions on that
Yeah.
stuff, and it's just such a good community, no matter where you go with the hobby. And that's a little bit of how I'm thinking about the different platforms.
Yeah. Well, man, the stuff you're putting out on, like you did that reel, what was it, last week or something
Oh,
like
yeah.
that? It was amazing, dude.
Oh,
So
thank
you have a really gift of storytelling, and that's something that I get a lot of feedback, and I don't even know it, but man, you're a great
you.
storyteller,
Are.
and
Yeah.
you have so much passion, and you're this. And I'm like, well, I don't know that. Like, I'm just telling a story. I'm glad you enjoy it, and I'm glad you think I'm good. That's
Yeah.
great. But I am going to have passion, or else I'm not going to sit here and go to the time to do even putting a post on Instagram. You're investing your time, you're
You are.
investing your energy, and you're throwing yourself out there in a way. People can hate it,
Yeah.
and or people can like it. You're really taking a risk. So I find that kind of rewarding too.
Yeah, you're right. I think you are a great storyteller. I remember listening to the Larry Doby and Jackie Robinson episodes, and all of them, but those ones were really good because they're a couple of my favorites. And I just don't know how you keep it all in your head. Like you're not reading a script, I don't think. And so
No, I'm not. I mess up sometimes, but it's all good. I just
yeah,
want it to come from the heart.
yeah. Mhm.
So I think it's more powerful that way than just reading. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and that's exactly what I mean. Is sometimes you see a cool card on Instagram and you're like, oh, I hadn't even seen that before. I remember someone posted recently an in-action card with, I think it was Louis Aparicio was on it, and maybe one other guy. I can't remember who it was, but it was like 3 years before his rookie card released. He was on some World Series in-action card, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. I just never even knew that like it was a printing of someone before, like 3 years before their actual like hobby recognized rookie card was out there. So sometimes you just learn something like that. But
yeah.
then there's other times where you see your post or Nate or Matthew, they put real thought behind
Mhm.
what they chose in a card or what it means to them because they read Glory of Our Times. And you get to see a different, I guess, appreciation for a card that you already have seen before. So there's multiple angles to it, and it's all good stuff. It's all way
Yeah.
more fun than most of our day jobs, right?
Yeah, and it's an escape, and it
Yeah.
it inspires me, man. I mean, you've put some stuff out there, whether you know it or not, that's inspired me. I mean,
Cool.
I
Thank
already had this affinity towards Jackie Robinson, and then really dug into Larry Doby's story. So anybody that watches my stuff or watches my Instagram, they already know that, right?
Yeah.
But me and you are kindred spirits in that.
Yeah, man.
Like you kind of feel the same way I do, and it kind of turns you on to like dig into it and go. And in that latest video you did, I just shared it on my YouTube,
Oh, cool.
by the way. So hopefully people will see it there too. But just the way you tell the story and the why behind what you picked up, it's inspiring. So that would be the word that I would use, is looking at other people's stuff. You can be inspired. There's some people that just kind of like to call themselves, what's that word? You used it a minute ago when you're trying to make people like something. Drawing a blank. Uh, Dang it. Well, anyways, they're trying to not inspire you, but they're trying to
Influence, you say?
influence you.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm an influencer and you
Yeah.
should like this because I
Yeah.
like it. That doesn't do anything for me. But when you really do something with some heart, that inspires me. So
Yeah.
that would be my thing. What I would say about your collection: it's a
Cool.
collection with heart and a collection with soul. So, and I
Great.
hope people would say that about mine as well. So to
They
me,
would.
that's the
Yeah, they would.
biggest compliment. So what I was explaining to you before we came on, and that was that I want this to be about, like, we can dig into how you started collecting as a 10-year-old, and I've heard your story. It's a really good one, by the way. But what I really want to do with this collector spotlight is I really want to focus on the cards
Yeah.
and the stories behind the cards. There's a lot of power there. And I think by doing that, by the end of this video, people are going to understand who you are as a collector and kind of what turns you on. So I'm going to try that. I'm hoping this works. I used my daughter as a guinea pig last night. So I've got some cards loaded up that you sent me, and I'm going to load those up here, hopefully on the screen. There you go. So we're
Oh,
gonna this. I'm just gonna jump right in the deep end with you and let you talk about this one right out the gate.
yeah. I mean, this is a hard card to top. So I think it's all downhill from everyone. Your viewership's going to drop off.
I shouldn't have done that.
Uh, no, I'm just kidding. It's probably my favorite card. Depends on the day you ask, but certainly top two or three. And it's one that, for me at least, has a special connection as well. I met the original owner of the card. His brother got it signed back in the Bronx at outside Yankee Stadium
Wow.
in 1949. He had this amazing collection, and I was able to help him kind of consign that to the right place. And it was mostly sold at Heritage, but this was one card that I was able to buy from him directly before that all went out. And it was kind of his little, like, thanks for all the tips and insight. Like, I still paid a lot of money for it, but like
Yeah.
was able to grab it. And um, as I think about what I like today and bridging that with what I liked as a kid, this is just a perfect card for that. I want to be someone who continues to tell the story and shine a light on the Negro League stars, who didn't get the headlines and the fanfare that they deserved back in the time when they were playing. And I want to be able to be just a little tugboat pulling the story in the right direction, even 70 years later, 80 years later. And it also, so this is a perfect card for that, but it also is a player that, when I was 8, 9, 10 years old, for whatever reason, I just love the story of Satchel Paige. His nickname, I really love that name, and how he got it with holding on, earning extra bucks and
Yeah.
learning all these different pitches. He's got 15 or 20 different pitches with all the coolest names in the book. And the high leg kick, and that kind of ties into another player I liked growing up, Orlando Hernandez.
Yeah.
Played for the Yankees in the late 90s. But so just a player that I think epitomizes the heart, the fun in the game, and showing how baseball can be bigger than a sport. In my opinion, he was probably one of the first Black celebrities in the world. And there were some musicians who were his contemporaries that were pretty significant, and some writers and inventors as well. But Satchel Paige was someone who could sell out 75,000 seat stadiums, and I think he did that for the first night game in MLB history.
Yeah.
so, that he was just someone who brought people to town, and people talked and buzzed about what was he going to do tonight. And that, who knows how many kids he inspired, and how many, not even just athletes, but people to just be confident and yourself, and, showman. And so I could go on and on, but this is one of those cards where when I stare at it, I'm like, I just don't know how I could do much better in the hobby. Like, this is
Yeah.
probably going to be one of my mountaintops, and that's totally fine. I'm happy to eclipse it at this point, and I'll gladly hold on to this for the rest of my life at least.
Yeah. So I'm going to point out something real quick that's very obvious. You and I are very much in the same lane on how we take the history of the player, and that inspires us to try to get their cards. Like, it's more than just, hey, that's a pretty card, or hey, everybody wants this one, that means it must be cool. You have a lot of thought behind who you like and why you like them. And then the other thing that's obvious, and it's going to become more obvious as we go through this lineup, you like the vintage autographs too.
Yeah.
So me and you, buddy, you're right down my alley. Me and you, it's kind of
Yeah.
like in that movie Step Brothers. Did we just become best friends? So that's definitely going to be something that kind of stands out. Real quick, no, I want to get to your other cards, but how did you come across the guy that had these?
Just another example of getting involved in the hobby and outside of your bedroom is, I was posting on Instagram or on Facebook in various kind of vintage baseball card groups, just sharing cards that were mostly signed vintage of, Negro League crossover players, Jackie, Satch, Doby, and saying, hey, this is what I love to collect. Check it out. Also, if you have any, I'm buying. I'm always looking to trade and sell and whatnot, or trade and buy. And a guy just reached out, randomly. Is one of those kismet things where I don't know why he chose my post and, sent me a message, but it was kind of 2 or 3 messages in. He said, hey, I have some cards like this that you might be interested in. And then he sends me this picture with Jackie Robinson signed 49 Bowman, Satchel Paige, Doby, early win, like Roy Campanella, like every major, card you could think of, signed rookie cards. And I just was, jaw on the floor, and, then it just kind of snowballed from there.
So as we go through these and we see more signed cards, what is it about the signed cards that kind of really turn you on with them?
Yeah. I mean, should we go to the next one? I can touch.
Sure, let's do that. Let's do that, and then that way we'll get off this one. So here's another big one.
Yeah, this is probably my favorite card as well. Like, these are the two that I always go back and forth between, but just because it's an amazing image of Jackie, and it's a little bit of a faded auto, as you can tell, but it's just really nicely placed, and he took his time with it. And but what do I love about it? I remember 2002. I was probably 10 years old or so, and my dad took me. He and my mom were divorced, and whenever it was his weekend, we'd stop at the card shop before going to his place after he picked me up, and we would always stop and just grab a $5 Derek Jeter card or something like that. And one day it was my birthday, and the card shop owner said, hey, I want to give you a pack. And it was one of those expensive guaranteed autograph in a pack. And I opened the pack. I was so I had chills. I was, goosebumps, shaking as I was opening it, because I'd never seen an autograph card that was going to be like mine, And
Yeah,
I think I pulled like a Juan Rivera or Melky. I can't remember who it was. Some no-name Yankees rookie, but it was Yankee, and so I was pumped. And it was autographed, and I just couldn't believe it. That I was like, man, this guy held what I have now, and signed it. And it just was like blowing my mind, because this felt like a little bit of one of those hobbies you keep to yourself.
yeah.
But no, it's the superstar who's on the card who, you're kind of this connection to them. So I think ever since then, and that kind of happened for me with relic cards too, jersey and back cards. But
Yeah.
ever since then, I was like, this is the way I want to collect. And when I got back into the hobby more seriously around COVID. And I had never really left, but I wasn't really spending big money back again until COVID. That was when I stumbled across Matty C, his page, and he had all these signed mantles.
Yep.
And it just opened my eyes to, man, I had no idea that you could collect like this. And it's what you said, it's what everybody says, but the idea is, if I think about what card do I want in my collection that represents Jackie Robinson, I could have a really nice pack fresh 1950 Bowman and be very happy, and I would be. But I would also be one of 1,000 people, with a card like that. And it's just, at the end of the day, a piece of cardboard that we're spending thousands of dollars on. And so I want to take it another level. Like, I want to be in a more exclusive club. I want it to be something more meaningful. And that's where the autograph comes in, where it's hits that part of my brain that I'm so, like, I was just so blown away by as a kid. And he held the card. I mean, he probably looked at it and said, man, that's a bad picture of me, or, whatever he said. And that was the moment that, it was going to cement this piece where, I think 100 years from now, people like Jackie Robinson, Larry Doby will seem like mythical figures, in some ways, like maybe the way, almost Thomas Jefferson or George Washington feel like to the young folks today, where you're like, I mean, to me too, but just, they seem like they didn't really exist, but they are so important to our cultural history. And I think Jackie is going to be that. And this is, he bridged the gap of, pre-civil rights America, and, we're still working on it, but post-civil rights America, where there was a vision of something better. And he was that bridge. He took all of the, flack, and people stepped on him and, called him every name in the book. I mean, you did a great job in your video, but this is just, in my mind, like a little rock from that bridge, like this is a little piece of that story. And to have that in my collection just feels like I'm not even allowed to do that, like this. And so it's just something that I always view as the pinnacle, and I'm always going to try to get more of. So as you think about themes in my collection, we can move on from here, but I try to get the signed runs of my favorite players. So Satchel Paige, Jackie Robinson, Larry Doby. There's a few others that we might hit on, but that's one way that I really like to collect.
Yeah, and the fact that I just looked up on my phone because I've got the Jackie run popped out, but that's a pop 9. There's only 9 of those graded, man. And they come up every now and then, like you did with the one, the Satchel Paige you showed a minute ago, and that beautiful Bowman card that I tried to get, that 49 Bowman that was signed. So they come up from time to time. So you just, as a collector, hope they do that again. So let me go to this next one.
Sure.
I didn't even click on that one, so I'm not really sure how that one came up. So here we go. So here we're kind of getting into a new genre. So this is such a cool card. So kind of tell us about this one a little bit.
Yeah. And I'll be quicker for everyone. I don't want to spend.
Oh no, you're good.
You good? Okay. So this it's just a fun card. I mean, Mickey Mantle is synonymous with the hobby, and then Yogi Berra I got a chance to meet at his museum when I was a kid in New Jersey. And if you haven't seen his documentary on Netflix, I think it is maybe Netflix or Prime, it's fantastic.
I just clicked off that. That is not good. Let me remove that real quick.
It's okay. Jumping ahead.
So yeah, there we go.
Yeah. He's as lovable as it gets. And then Hank Bauer was essential to a lot of the World Series runs. But what is it about this card? I mean, there's a couple of things. One, just the idea of getting 3 different autographs on a single card before the internet was even now it's really difficult and risky, but to do that back in the 80s is really took a lot of foresight, took a lot of risk, took a lot of passion from a collector to get that done. So I like having multi-signed cards of Hall of Famers or stars in my collection. I think we both might have one of the Cleveland guys, the Doby, Minoso, and Colavito.
Yeah, that's one of my prize ones. I think it's cool as crap. It's
Yeah,
awesome.
one of the coolest cards. And
Mhm.
so this one is similar, but one of the reasons I haven't, you know, or why I put it at this level, I guess, why I say it's one of my favorites is because of the arrow that Mickey Mantle put
Yeah.
above his head. And I got the chance again, just posting this on Facebook. Some guy reached out and said, "Hey, no way, that was my card back in the '80s. I got that signed, and I remember Mickey putting an arrow on it, and I thought, oh no, he's ruining my card." But Mickey was like laughing to himself, just thinking like, oh, making sure people know who I am.
Yeah.
And it just shows you that's who we all, at least that's who I wanted to be growing up, was just a playful, having fun in the sport, and not taking life too seriously. And this is just a tiny example of that. And so when I saw this pop up, I was like, I gotta get that. What a perfect example of this card, and to have Mickey represented in the collection.
So did that guy get all 3 of them, I'm guessing?
Yeah, he did. He
So what's the story behind that? Where'd he go get them at?
Yeah, Yogi, so it was 3 separate shows. I was surprised to hear that, but the final one was, and I could pull up the name, but it was basically a local furniture retailer.
Oh,
And Mickey had, this said, "Hey, I'll come down for a day for an opening.
yeah.
And if you sign, if you come and you buy something or sign
Mhm.
up for the mailing list," I forget what it was, but he said you could get a one piece signed. But
Yeah.
basically, there was this guy and his brother came, and they were the only kids there. So Mickey just kept signing whatever he wanted.
That's
And
awesome.
they finally, got a few other cool things, but this was one of the last things. They actually went back home to get it, and then came back because I guess they forgot or something, where
Yeah.
it just was, worked out. But um,
Well, that's the same way I got his autograph. When I was
was it?
14, he came to a grand opening of a store 15 minutes from me in Nashville and
There you
took
go.
an appearance fee, and he would sign 2 items.
Okay.
And so I brought my 59 tops and got there and then realized he would sign 2. I thought he would only sign 1.
Yeah.
And so they were selling baseballs. This was a place that sold diamond rings, lawn equipment, bicycles. It was a service merchandise is what it's called.
Yeah.
And so I got a ball and that 59, I got both of them, man. That meant the world to me. I'm surprised this dude gave it up, honestly.
Yeah.
But hey,
Yeah,
man,
I didn't even ask him. I said, "Hey, if you want to buy it back, you can buy it for what I paid for it." But he said no, it wasn't. He's okay with it going on. But
right.
yeah,
All
so
right. You want to move to the next one?
let's do it.
All right. Here we go.
Another, this is I guess a little clue as to what my last video was about. But this is another passionate piece of my collection, where this set, I think, has grown in popularity pretty significantly over the
Oh,
past
yeah.
few years. But it's was relatively unknown as far as it goes in the hobby for a long time, and but so ahead of its time, because it was released in 1974. I want to say only 4 Negro League players were in the Hall of Fame at that point, and this was a set of about 36 different players, and 22 of them went on to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. So
Wow.
it was a just real amazing capture of all the talent that didn't get represented in the major leagues, and on cardboard as well. I think almost certainly majority, and there's only a small handful that even had Cuban or Dominican, Venezuelan type releases
Yeah.
of cards. Most of them didn't have anything until this release in 1974. And a lot of the best parts of this set are on the back, where the artist Bob Laughlin would write up mostly just quotes, and there wasn't stats to rely on, but just perspectives from other major leaguers. So on the back of Satchel Paige's card, there's a really nice mixture of quotes from Joe DiMaggio, and I think it's Dizzy Dean, basically just calling him the best they ever saw. And so
Wow.
that was another way to I think if you were a kid at the time, you wouldn't have the internet, you wouldn't have all these documentaries to learn about these players. And so you said, why do I care about who Buck Leonard is? But if on the back they're calling him the Black Lou Gehrig, and someone like Robin Roberts is saying he's the best left-handed hitter I ever saw, then that's that means, okay, wow, this guy was a real deal, and it brings it to life. So I love this set. I try to get as many as I can autographed. I have a couple Buck Leonards, and this was actually his first appearance on cardboard. So I mean, I guess you could call it his signed rookie card, even though it's 30 years after he retired. But I love this set.
Yeah, it's surprising to me, like, how many guys came into the major leagues that were African American in the 80s and 90s and maybe even today and don't know the stories of these Negro League guys.
Yeah,
They don't really know who Larry Doby is and what he went through. And so maybe this card in 1974, when a kid of a white kid, black kid, whoever, read that back, maybe they were like, wow, I didn't know that even happened, you know?
yeah,
So it kind of piqued their interest. Maybe they became like me and you and started digging into books, and they didn't have the internet. But I mean, when I was a kid, when I went to the library, that's what I got was baseball books and read history of players. That was what I really loved even back then. So it's cool that at your age. How old are you, by the way?
I'm 32. Yeah.
See, you're just a youngin, and have all this vintage love, man. It's awesome. So
Yeah.
we'll go to the next one. So I'm gonna click to the next one. There we go. That
Okay.
was awesome.
Another great one. I mean, yeah, you can tell who rises to the top in my collection. It's these guys who are, um, if I could afford Babe Ruth autograph cards, I'd get them. But
Yeah.
it's it's the tier that is right there with him, or maybe tier 1A, of the most important players that transcend the sport, and have a reason to love them beyond baseball and their prowess. Obviously, Clemente had one of the best arms. It was an amazing hitter, just almost an unmatchable talent on the field. But he also was one of the best humans, in the sport, and that's why there's an award named after him. And unfortunately, led to his tragic passing just a few years after this card was released. And so I knew I wanted to have a Clemente card. This one was one that jumped out because it did come with the best wishes inscription. I like when he has that.
Mhm.
But it also was the first year since 1956 where Topps stopped calling him Bob Clemente,
Yeah.
which he did not like. There was a couple people in his circle that he allowed to call him Bob, but Topps calling him Bob Clemente, he felt was not honoring his heritage and who he was. And um, it's kind of like whitewashing, honestly. Some of these uh, images that they chose of Latino players and Black players, you can almost tell they're going for something that looks more like a tan white guy rather than who it is on the page. And so this is a card where I think they've finally reverted back to Roberto, and it's just a cool image. He looks great, and he signed it in a good spot. So this one I got from a friend actually at the National last year. I had been trying to pry it from him for a long time, and he had a duplicate. So I mean, he's got one of the most insane signed vintage collections in the world, probably the best. His
Wow.
name's Rare Bear Collectibles
Oh
on
yeah, I know exactly who he is. I've actually reached out to him about coming on and doing this.
Yeah, okay. I talk to him once a week or so. So if you
Okay.
want me to bug him, I can do that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Okay. Yeah, so he traded this to me alongside some other. I gave him some stuff he needed, a signed mantle and then some cash, and yeah, it worked out. So it's always fun when you can get like a big deal like that done. It felt like that's what you go to the National for, is you're trying to get something that sticks with you, and not just the experience and the friends, but oh, this is a card that I wouldn't have found otherwise, and I was able to trade into it, which is kind of like what you would do as a kid, but it's just on such a grander scale. So yeah, it was fun.
So, one of the things when you kind of sent me your cards, and that you said something in a little blurb underneath this one that really hit me. I wouldn't even have thought of that, but it's staring right in my face. Is the fact this is a 1970 card, and there was just this really short window before he died tragically in that plane crash.
Yeah.
So there can't be too many 1970 Roberto Clemente autograph cards, man. I
Yeah.
mean, what are we talking? Less than 10?
Yeah, definitely less than 10 last time I checked. And yeah, I mean, at 71, 72, it's shocking that they even exist,
I know. Wow.
because Topps would release it, right around spring of that year. So, I mean, I think he passed in December of 72.
Yeah.
So it would have been, 2.5 years or so to get this signed. And this was a good example. It's centered, good
Yeah.
registration,
Yeah,
like
it's awesome.
it's cool.
They didn't put it in their bike spokes.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right, so let's go to the next one. This one's a cool one too.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So I'm, as I mentioned a little bit ago, this is, I like to, I don't put myself in a bucket of I'm a vintage collector only or a modern collector. I do mostly collect baseball. I try to go, grab a few cards here and there of like a Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Tom Brady, some of the GOATs, but mostly just baseball. But this is one of those cool ones where it bridges modern and vintage. And when I was a kid, I had a whole binder filled with jersey cards, bat cards, because it felt like I was getting, closer to the player. And that just was really, much cooler to me than just having something without one of those pieces of memorabilia in it. And if at the time someone said, what's the best possible relic bat card you could ever think of, I think I probably would have said Josh Gibson. He didn't have any cards really at the time. I made a custom card with I had my mom, at her work try to print out a picture for me, and I wrote up a back of it. I just loved the stories of Josh Gibson. And so this is Topps controversially bought one of two known game used bats
Wow.
from Josh Gibson back in 2006. They bought it from his estate, and the other one is sitting in the Al Jergala collection, who's El Rey collection on Instagram, probably the best Negro League collection in the world. But Topps bought the other and cut it up, which is a shame. But since they did it, I'm gonna collect it.
Yeah, exactly. It was already done by the time you
Yeah.
got that card.
Yeah. So, and this was the only year that they put him in a few different years, but this was the only year they did 3 relics in one card, and it was numbered to 5. So when I found this, I just had to have it. And actually, it was a friend who knew I loved Josh Gibson. He saw it at his local LCS in Washington or something, and texted me about it. And he paid for it and then shipped it to me. So it worked out. Yeah.
Wow, man, that's awesome. I mean, I don't have any relics. I got a few patch cards,
Yeah.
but man, that is cool. I mean, yeah, I hate that they cut up a really nice bat of a guy, but
Yeah.
if the card's there, it's already been done. So,
Yeah.
all right, let's go to the next one. This one's a cool one too. They're all cool, but this one's cool too.
Oh yeah, this one I thought, it's just if you think about iconic images, great images from vintage baseball, Bowman Color is way up there. And as I was looking at your Doby video, I think you had mentioned someone said that this set might be like the precursor to Top Stadium Club.
Yeah, exactly.
And this is a perfect example of that.
Mhm.
One of the first images of real action on a card in color, and Pee Wee Reese being one of the essential side characters in the Jackie Robinson story.
Yeah.
He's always going to have an important part of my collection, or corner of my collection. Same with Branch Rickey and Ralph Branca and a few other guys on those Dodgers teams. And but this one I just thought was a perfect example of a signed vintage card. It's not in the best shape. There's some a little bit of creasing and rounded corners, but it's good centering, and the way he placed the autograph looks like it was meant for it to be there.
It's so awesome.
So I just love that card. And compared to the rest of the stuff, I mean, this is a fraction of the value, but still gets you close to the game, close to these icons. So
Yeah.
yeah,
A lot of people say this is, in their opinion, the prettiest card in the hobby, in
yeah.
the vintage world. So it is cool, very cool. How many? Do you have any idea what the pop count is on the sign
I
ones?
want to say it's in the 20s.
Okay.
I could pull it up pretty quickly, I think.
Well, you don't have to do that. I just didn't know if you knew off the top of your head. I figured it'd probably be. I didn't think it'd be 50 or anything like that.
Yeah, this was a common one for him to get signed,
Mhm.
just because it is a favorite. But I'm pulling it up right now. Let's see. Yeah, it's in the 20s.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome. So I'm about to jump into a set that you'll have to tell the
All
story
right.
behind this set. You know where I'm going with this one.
Yeah, I do. Yep.
All right.
All right, one of my favorite cards, and they are representative of my favorite set chase. I think sets are kind of dying a little bit as a chase in the hobby, but
Yeah.
I'm just someone who wants to honor that tradition a little bit, and so I pick a handful of sets to go after that are going to take me years to get done, just to be another way to
It's because
engage.
you're young. I don't have years.
That might be right. Maybe that is it. I don't know. Yeah, I just like the idea of a long-term chase. But this is one where it was my favorite vintage set. It was always weird to me that it wasn't included in the Beckett price guides growing up, even though it had Jackie Robinson and Satchel Paige's rookie card, two of my favorite players.
I
And
didn't
I just thought,
realize that they weren't in there.
yeah, they started with 49 or 48 Bowman, which I just always thought
Huh.
was weird.
Wow.
So it did come in at times, but like the annual price guide just for
Yeah.
whatever reason wasn't in there. But um, yeah, so the 48 leaf set, I mean, there's probably videos, dozens of videos on YouTube about it, but just in my opinion, one of the prettiest sets, probably top four vintage baseball sets alongside 52 tops, T206, 33 Gaudy. Like 48 Leaf has 30 Hall of Fame rookie cards in it. Is the first integrated baseball set, one of the first color baseball sets after World War II. So if you're thinking about being a kid in post-war America who just wants that escape, wants to see their superstar icons, like this is the first time they might see it in color because like the
Yep.
newspapers are black and white, TV is black and white, and so this is what Ted Williams looks like. And this was a great example, an amazing image of him. And I wanted to collect the 48 leaf set. I felt that there was a lot of different angles to go down with it. Do you go after great registration? Do you go after perfect centering or color? Because it's a lot of misprint issues, as we know. But the sign thing just felt like it could carry over from my Jackie and Satch collections, and the one day maybe melding those two of getting a signed Jackie Robinson rookie, probably never in the cards for me, but you don't know, you never know.
Yeah.
So um, that's the idea behind the chase. And at this point, I have collected, I think it is 92% of the available signed cards.
That is
So
insane. So how
there,
many is that exactly? I
yeah.
mean,
So,
not exactly, but in a roundabout.
no, I've got it here. It's there's 50, so I have 57 of the cards
Okay.
out of the 98 cards in the set, but only about um, 60. I guess so. Maybe it's a little less than 92, but 60 are known to be signed. So I
Oh,
have 57 of the 60. The rest are all short prints, basically.
yeah.
Where anytime you have one of those, it's amazing to
Yeah.
find. That's an example of probably one other we're going to look at on this.
Yeah. We're gonna go that one next.
Yeah.
And I'll tell a little story behind that one too.
Okay.
You
Yeah.
ready?
Yeah.
All right. All right. So here's the one. This is the one that I'll be honest, I want all your cards, but this one right here, like you were just saying, there's only a certain amount of cards. Well, I've done the signed Larry Doby run, and I only like this card and the 52 Bowman that I keep posting about. I'm hoping somebody's going to let me know. I said there's one on auction right now that I'm looking at, but
Okay, good.
so hopefully I get it. But
I don't have to give you
this is
this
a
one
pop
then.
one. Do what?
I don't have to give you this one then.
Well, you knew you picked that one up, and I reached out to you, like, dude, I've been looking for. Where'd you find that?
I just
So,
want, I didn't realize at the time, and I'm like, I should just sell it to him.
no, man, you're good. I'll get another one. It's all about the chase. But
Yeah.
this one is a pop one. This is the only signed Larry Doby that is in existence that's been graded. I mean, somebody might
Yeah,
have
there
one,
might
but
be
go ahead and
another.
tell the story behind this one.
Yeah, there might be another out there. You never know. But as you know, I'm someone who tracks all of the pop of all of the 48 leaf set, pretty insanely. All the SPs, the highest pop out of all the SPs is 2, and
Wow.
then the majority is 0 by a long shot.
Yeah.
So having 1 is, and the 2 actually is Bob Feller, which we know as being like the most prolific signer of all time in vintage baseball. So finding another will be tough, but this one I was just shocked to see that it was in a friend's collection. Not that he's got one of the most insane signed Hall of Fame rookie card collections in the world. I think he's number 1 on the PSA set registry for it.
Is that Rare Bear again?
No, this is Dwayne Tom.
Okay.
He collects across all the sports, but has basically a complete post-war top 4 sports, every Hall of Fame rookie card signed.
Wow.
It's just incredible collection.
Yeah.
And so he had this one, and I was talking to him at the National a couple of years ago, and said, actually he was standing there at a table with me while I was buying signed 48 Leafs for my set from a dealer. And I said, if you ever see a Doby, like, let me know. He's like, oh, I have one. And I was like, oh my God, would you? That's the only one. I didn't know you had that. Like, would you ever sell it or trade it or something? And he said, I mean, no, but I know you like the set, and we've been getting along for a while, and he's kind of like a little mentor, relationship for me. And so he said, if you ever find a high grade signed Bowman, I will consider, like a trade deal negotiation, not necessarily just that for one, but that type of situation. I was like, okay, well, I'll keep an eye out. And so I went after a couple of them at auction, and just, I didn't want to buy something that I wasn't like spend $16,000 or $20,000 on something that I didn't really want, because I was happy to get like a lower grade signed Bowman Doby. I didn't need the highest grade one. On the hope that maybe he would trade it to me, like I didn't want that risk. And so there was one that was finally coming up again. It looked like it was going to go a little bit lower. And I texted him the night of the auction. I said, hey, is that trade still on if I get this? And he said, yes, I'm actually bidding on this. And I was like, okay, well, he said, I'll stop. I bought it. And Derek was bidding on it as too, Rare Bear. And so I got him to stop bidding on it. Not that we were purposefully colluding.
Yeah.
It's just we were all kind of figuring out like, oh, it's just us. So yeah, I got it, and then we worked out a trade, and man, I was so pumped, and he was pumped because it helps with him with his set and the GPA points for the PSA set registry and all that. So, but now I've got a hole for the Bowman. I got to fill that, but this is just an incredible card, and one that I like how the piping kind of matches the Y and his signature, and just all kind of blends a little bit. It's not in the best shape, obviously, but it's a great card.
I explain that all the time. When you're collecting low pop autograph cards, the grade really doesn't matter that much, man.
Yeah.
It's all about that autograph being on there. And I picked up that Larry Doby signed Burke Ross card in that lot a couple of weeks ago or a month ago.
Yeah.
And, that's a pop too. And
Amazing.
there was one, a raw one, just sitting there in a lot of 15 other ones. And so I nabbed that sucker. But I know you're needing that Bowman, and I have one. So I'm right now just willing to make that deal. So
But it's in your theme. It's in your opening intro.
yeah, I know I can't do it.
Yeah.
Well, I would do it, but I could, but I'm just joking. I know you ain't giving this enough. You got
Yeah.
too many oars in the water on this bad boy.
Yeah.
So we'll go to the next one. Another awesome card.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, maybe I'll just pause. I mean, I think I'm just staring at it and I'm like, this is just such a pretty card,
Yeah.
and this is such a good image of him, the 1,000-yard stare, this big smile. It's kind of one of the reasons I don't like Doby's cards as much. It's just like he looks a little bit more pissed off in his cards.
Yeah, he does
Like,
sometimes. Yeah.
sometimes, But Jackie in this image is, yeah, it just looks amazing. And the Dodger blue ink right above the facsimile, I think it lines up really well. It's got some staple holes in the middle, right to the left of his hat. So I think someone must have put it on their wall at some point, but that's why it's not graded higher. Otherwise, in really good shape. And this was another pen pal situation. Talked to a guy for a year who had it on eBay for way too high of a price. He finally took it down, and we met up. I had like a bag of cash at a Wells Fargo bank 5 hours from my grandmother's house because I was visiting her, and he lived in the same state, and we drove. And that was the first time I spent like significant money on a card. And it was right after like my first big bonus, or like maybe second or third big bonus, really. But like one of those bigger paydays, and I was like, am I going to really do this? Is this stupid? And, but then you just, the collector brain turns on and you're like, I'm so glad I did this. This is maybe one day it'll look smart or dumb. I don't know. But
How long have you had this one, Luke?
About 5 years. Yeah. 4 or 5
Okay.
years. Yeah.
And on this one, I have this one signed as well. You were,
Yeah.
I reach out to you anytime I'm bidding on something that I know is in your lane, because you just don't want to bid something up against your buddy. And so I don't know what I would do if you were. We'd probably just have to flip a coin or say, may the best man win. But anyways, it's good to know anyways if you're doing that. But mine, the autograph is really faded. And when I look up the pop report and pick out the different cards, I think this one's like a pop 16. Most of them are faded, man. This one is one of the nicest, boldest ones I've seen. So congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree. I don't know what it is about this one, but I agree with you. Most of them are faded, and thankfully, this example, but they're all this. It's all held and signed, by Jackie.
It's still the same. But it's beautiful. I love this set. To me, the 55 top set is my favorite set of the 50s as far as just the beauty of it. I love the bright colors.
Absolutely.
I know some people really like the 56. Nate and I've had this conversation in Cardboard Veritas guy, but of which one he agrees with me. He likes 55. So one day we did a poll on Instagram on our story, which set do you like best? And all of his followers barely picked 56 and all of mine barely picked 55. So it was almost split down the middle if you did it. So it's really cool hearing people's views. But
and this is one of those good ones where it also is the year he won his only World Series, right? So I think it's all amazing design, but maybe the smile signals something more where you're just, this is a cool one to be able to honor what was finally his feat after a lot of hard fought battles with the Yankees mostly. And it's just funny to me when you stare at like the position, it says third base and outfield. Like everybody thinks of Jackie Robinson as a second baseman, but he just did it all, man.
Yeah, that's when Jim Gilliam had come in and they had to find a spot for him, and he went to second base, and then they moved Jackie. He was starting to get a little heavier. The diabetes was kicking in a little bit, and he didn't that speed that just separated him was starting to leave him a little bit. And people don't realize, when I was a kid and I heard the story about Jackie Robinson, to me, I looked at it like he had a really short career, and he did. But I didn't understand, like, I think, what was he, a 28-year-old rookie?
29, Mhm.
So yeah, it was short, but it was short because he had to wait forever.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's part of the story, that kind of gets lost. So his run really isn't that big, if
I
you
know.
really can think about it. So yeah, the sign run is such a awesome thing to try to achieve with him, and I'm trying to do the same thing. So
Yeah. No,
we'll
we'll help
see.
each other out. We'll find a way. I'm sure
Yeah.
there'll be some healthy conflict at one point, but we're helping each
Yeah.
other.
Well, I'm going to bring on this one last card, and it's the
Great.
modern one I accidentally flipped up there a while ago. So, and we'll end on that one. And this kind of shows you're a guy that you have modern, you have vintage, you have all kinds of really neat avenues that you collect. And I wanted to keep this under an hour because I'm
Yeah,
afraid
yeah.
people won't watch if it doesn't. So we're gonna go up with this one right here and let you talk about it.
Cool. Yeah, I'll close it out here. Uh, let's see. So my dad, like most people, that's how you kind of get into the hobby. He collected when he was a kid, and he gave me his cards from the late '60s and early '70s. And one of the things we did growing up, beyond going to local card shops, was take an annual vacation to um, a different baseball stadium. So we tried every
Awesome.
year, every summer, to go to a different stadium. And about, I think it was 2 years ago now. Yeah, 2 years ago, I said, "Hey, there was a charity auction for the Boys and Girls Club of Uvalde, Texas. I'm down here in Austin, Texas, and I bid on some things for that to raise some funds. And one of them was throwing a first pitch at a Detroit Tigers game.
Oh
They'd
wow.
never gone to the stadium, to the Tiger Stadium. So I won that, and I said, hey, Dad, why don't you throw this out? And um, it was just such a cool experience. We were on the field, met Jim Leland and some other guys, retired players who were there, and had a good weekend in Detroit. And then he was, tears in his eyes as he threw the pitch and threw a strike, and it was just
That's awesome.
really really cool. And the rookie who caught his pitch was Mason Engler.
Oh
And so I just kind of knew I needed to get something from him because I'm a collector and I want to, bridge that situation, that connection with my dad and that
mhm.
day. And when this debut patch thing came out, I thought it was such a cool idea. And, I put out like basically a little bounty trying to get this, and found the guy who pulled it. And, probably overpaid, but it's just one of those things where, who cares?
Yeah.
It's just always going to remind me of that day and my dad and the hobby. So it's a great way to just kind of represent all those things in my collection.
Look, you are the epitome of a collector. And so this story right here behind this card almost had a big lump as a dad, a big lump in my throat, man. You'll be a dad one day,
Yeah,
and you'll feel the things that your dad felt in that moment. But for this card to represent that moment, I mean, like you said, every time you look at this card, it'll remind you of that special day. And I think your dad's still with you, right?
yeah, he is. Yep.
And
Thank God.
we time's undefeated, and maybe
Yep.
one day he ain't gonna be, and this card will be part of him. So that's awesome, dude. Thank you
Yeah,
for sharing that.
for sure.
Well, man, this has been amazing. This hour has flown by, and I
Yeah,
wish we could keep going. And
yeah,
but unfortunately, I've learned in the YouTube world, if I go over an hour, nobody watches it, and I want them to watch your stuff, man, because it's awesome. So,
cool. Yeah, no,
well,
I really appreciate you having me on. I think this is going to be a fun little, run of people that you bring on for this, and you do great things for the hobby. So thanks a lot. I
well,
really
man,
appreciate it.
I appreciate you, and thank you so much for being my guinea pig, and thanks for sharing your wonderful collection. And listen, if you want to check him out, Luke at Bleecker Street Cards on Instagram and on YouTube. Check him out. It looks like you're starting to release some more YouTube stuff, so I
Yeah, I'm
can't
gonna try
wait.
to. Yeah, yeah.
But
Cool.
definitely check out the last one. I shared it on my channel. Check it out. You won't be disappointed. And subscribe to his channel.
Thanks.
His stuff's going to be amazing. So,
Thanks.
man, thank you, Luke. Thanks again, and we'll stay in touch.
Okay, sounds good.
All
Thanks,
right,
Tony.
see you, buddy.